I'm Julia,
And I'm Michelle.
and this is Created or Contacted.
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
What if the things that go bump in the night only exist because we're listening?
Every culture has spirits, every generation has stories. But one question nobody agrees on.
Are we experiencing the paranormal or are we creating it?
In this show, we step into the space between science and story, what we think we see and what might have been there all along.
Through exploration of cases, personal experiences, historical phenomenon, and the strange moments where perception and reality collide, we will try to uncover the answer to
Is it real or did we help make it real?
this time. This time we're going over the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch, America's potential first talking poltergeist? Question mark, question mark. All right. So what if I told you that one of America's most infamous hauntings didn't just knock on walls? It spoke, it argued theology, it predicted wars, and potentially confessed to murder. This is the story of the Bell Witch.
I've never heard of her before.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I have a book about the Bell Witch, but I never read it. It was very tiny, and I found it at like a Paracon type of thing. CT Horror Con.
Love those.
So, setting. It's the early 1800s in what was then known as the Red River Settlement, now called Adams, Tennessee. Back then, this wasn't the quiet rural town of around 670 people that it is today. It was wilderness, thick woods, inhabiting wolves and bears, dangerous terrain with families living miles apart. Into this rugged land moves a man named John Bell around 1804. He's in his mid-50s, a former cooper, which was a barrel maker. I had to look it up. From North Carolina. He brings his wife, Lucy, and their 9 children.
Oh, God bless.
9 kids. Buys over 300 acres to farm corn and is, by all accounts, successful at it. Until 1817. That's when things begin to change. John reportedly sees something in his field. It's got the body of a dog, the head of a rabbit. He shoots at it and it just vanishes. Doesn't like disappear into the trees, apparently just vanishes. Soon after, the Bell family begins hearing things like knocking on walls, scratching sounds, dragging of chains. I don't even know if they had chains. Then it escalates. Rocks and sticks were thrown at them across like this vast empty yard. They're just getting, like, you'd see who was throwing them at you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting thrown at. Blankets are ripped from their beds, hairs pulled, slapped, they're pinched, even bitten. Eventually, they start to hear a voice, a woman's voice. It becomes clearer over time, intelligent, it's mocking, and then it identifies itself as Kate. Some later called it Kate Batts's witch, possibly linking it to a neighbor, Kate Batts, that potentially had a feud with John Bell, but also unclear. Historians still debate whether that conflict was ever even real between the neighbor and John, but they equate Kate, the poltergeist, to Kate, the neighbor. Now, here's what makes the Bell Witch case different. This wasn't just a bump in the night ghost. The entity allegedly reasoned with people. It quoted scripture, it argued theology, and even revealed secrets from people's past in order to cause conflicts. It imitated the voice of locals. It engaged in conversations for so long with family or visitors that nobody was able to sleep. Insane. These are insane
I
things.
was with her until that.
There's a lot.
It's like, shut up and let me go to bed.
There's a lot. It targeted John Bell, the guy who moved there, the father of the family, and his daughter, Betsy, the most out of the whole family, all 11 of them. Betsy, a teenager at the time, reportedly suffered from brutal physical attacks like slapping, hair pulling, even being dragged out of her bed. And this was to the point she was left with bruises, welts, and even scratches. But the voice was kind to other people, like Lucy, the mother, or like any of the other children. It was fine to all of them, but not John and not Betsy.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice apparently mocked those who skipped church. It would laugh at people. It would curse at some of the villagers that would come around. It debated, and it grew louder and louder over the 4 years that it tortured them at this point. Apparently, in 1819, legend claims that none other than Andrew Jackson traveled to the Bell home in order to investigate this. I guess
Oh.
he regularly went to investigate like witch cases. His carriage, upon leaving, allegedly froze in place, wheels locking as if stuck in mud, which crazy because it was on a smooth road. It wasn't like a dirt road. Female voice rang out, and only when it allowed them to leave did the carriage move again. The female voice, supposedly that of Kate. Some stories even claim that the spirit physically attacked a man in Jackson's group who was known as their witch hunter, witch tamer, sending him running. Historians question this account, but the legend persists. In 1820, John Bell became seriously ill. Starting in 1817, he suffered seizures, facial spasms, and a strange throat condition that made him like swallowing nearly impossible. Then one morning, he was found unresponsive. In a cabinet nearby, they found a small vial of dark liquid. According to legend, the entity claimed responsibility. It said it poisoned him, which made sense as she had been threatening to kill him for multiple years. Some modern researchers have speculated that that was just potentially arsenic poisoning. Others believe it was a natural neurological condition misinterpreted through fear. The witnesses. The family wasn't alone. Neighbors like James Johnson and his wife reportedly stayed overnight and experienced the activity firsthand. Their covers were ripped off, they were slapped. Nobody wants to stay there. Betsy's fiance, Joshua Gartner, another neighbor, claimed the harassment and rage from the entity were so intense that Betsy had to call off the engagement.
Wow.
Multiple community members would gather to hear the entity answer biblical questions, always correctly. Even an enslaved worker named Dean allegedly encountered the entity in the form of a two-headed dog, similar to that dog rabbit creature that John saw. But here's the complication. Most written accounts come decades later, like the 1894 book by Martin V. Ingram called An Authenticated History of the Famous Bell Witch. There are no official court documents, no newspaper articles, no church records, nothing confirming these events in detail, but the consistency throughout the accounts suggests that something real probably occurred. So, what are we dealing with? History or legend? That's the real question. From a skeptic's perspective, yeah, the early 1800s Tennessee was isolated, stressful, deeply religious, and ghost talk wasn't entertainment. It was very demonic. Ghosts were seen as warnings of judgment, coming judgment, or evidence that, you had committed sin and hadn't confessed to it. Now this ghost was haunting you, which wasn't what anyone wanted to be associated with at that time. That was just, you're going to outcast yourself. So, what are some possible explanations for this haunting? Some could say it's ergot. I think it's ergot poisoning, that like mushroomy fungus that happened to the witch trials too. From contaminated grain, which was known to cause hallucinations. It could have been toxic mold, which also was known to alter behavior. Rodents and maybe structural house noises were causing some of the instances. It was very common as most rural homes were made of wood and mud. So it's like things can get in, things can move. Could have just been a hoax like vocal ventriloquism or staged events for attention. It also could have been something called spontaneous recurring psychokinesis, where intense emotional stress, often in adolescence like Betsy, manifests as physical disturbance, sort of like a psychic temper tantrum, which is crazy.
That's tracks for teenagers, though.
Yeah. Many poltergeist cases center around teenagers. Their angst, emotional stress, and hormonal changes often become a catalyst for phenomena like this to occur. Could this have been psychological stress just expressed outward? We don't know. There's also a thing called conversion disorder, which converts mental and emotional distress into physical symptoms like the seizures John was experiencing or the paralysis that he possibly was experiencing too. Medical knowledge is also very limited, so the supernatural becomes an easy explanation, like we were kind of getting to at the last episode. So here's the real question. Did something haunt the Bell family, or did the belief create the haunting? There are three main interpretations: that it was a genuine, intelligent entity, psychological and social phenomena amplified by frontier religious fear, or minor events that evolved into legend over decades of storytelling, because it gets embellished, it gets made a lot bigger than it actually is. But in early America, witches and devils weren't just metaphors, they were accepted as real. And people's fear around the supernatural shaped their interpretations of events, from stories to reality. Today, the Bell Witch Cave is a famous tourist attraction. Paranormal investigators still visit, and podcasts still debate it. Like us. The story remains one of America's earliest poltergeist type legends, serving as inspiration for movies like The Blair Witch Project or An American Haunting, as well as multiple books covering the topic, like specifically about the topic, like the one I have, though I forget the name. The entity allegedly promised to return in 7 years, which it reportedly did in 1828, speaking with John Bell Jr., who was still living on the property, where it claimed it would return again like 100 years later. Very specific, 107 to 110. No idea if it did. Nobody reported if it did. But the Bell Witch case sits at a crossroads of folklore, religion, psychology, frontier history, and paranormal belief. Maybe it was a misunderstood illness, fear amplified by isolation, or something we still don't understand. But we're still discussing it 200 years later. So do you think we created it? Or do you think it's real?
You know, my first thought was John, his wife, and their 9 children. You know, maybe that poison that they found, and maybe his wife had something to do with it. Maybe she didn't want to have any more kids. Maybe she was done with him. The problem that I have with believing that all this happened is we're talking 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the medical knowledge that they have now.
Not at all.
They don't have the technology that we have now. And like you said, witches, devils, all that was looked at as real. Like they weren't just myths, they weren't just stories. They were like, yes, this is a legitimate thing. So it would be really easy again to have somebody with a mental health issue or an illness that they didn't quite understand back then to just say, yup, a ghost is doing this.
Very easy explanation for things.
Right.
Easy to explain away, especially because it's like back then they're so involved with church that's just what they're preached all the time.
Right. And the fact that, they had witnesses that went, okay, great. You had people stay over and things happen to them. Are they also playing into that hysteria? Like they're expecting something to happen because they've been told that things happen.
Yeah.
So they normally, I did an overnight at a supposedly haunted hotel. And I'm laying there and I'm going, did something touch my foot? Or am I just imagining that something touched my foot? Because I'm expecting something to touch my foot. So I think especially back then, that would be more commonplace. That they would go there and they would expect things to happen because they were told that things happen there. If I were to call it, I would say no. I would say no. I don't necessarily believe. And it's not like I'm a total non-believer, right? There are certain things that I do believe happen. But based on the evidence presented, I think that a lot of it could be medically and, psychologically explained away rather than just saying, yup, the witch just, and the thing that one of the reasons I think that the wife might have had something to do with it is why was the anger directed at the husband and was it the eldest daughter?
I think it was the eldest daughter.
Okay. That was the only 2 that she had a problem with, right? She didn't care about she was nice to the wife, right? You said, and like the other children. Why? Why the anger towards the husband and just the one daughter when they have 9 kids? Like I would think that the anger would be placed on everybody. Them all.
Yeah. It does make sense. I tried to look more into it. another John Bell that was like a politician, so it's very hard to
Hmm.
find enough information on him. But I guess he did have issues with one of the reasons he had to move from North Carolina was he had issues with his previous church, and he kind of got like
Oh,
exiled, sort of.
like excommunicated from that
Kind
church?
of. It was like, I forget how they phrased it, but you were like a member of the church. You had to like almost pay dues, or you had to apply or something.
Mhm.
And he was just like sent this letter and then moved and had to like apply for this new church and all this stuff. And I couldn't get a story straight on what happened to get him removed from the
Oh,
first
something.
one.
Yeah, something had to happen.
But like, could have been something with that
Hmm.
that his wife didn't approve of, and therefore.
And I also found it interesting too that the name of this ghost was also the same name as a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's something going
Oh
on
no.
there
Yeah.
too. Like that seems very
Mm-hmm.
coincidental. You know, like, oh, we just happen to have a neighbor named Kate and we have a ghost that is
Named
haunting
Kate.
us. And, like, can you be a little more original? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't,
There were other names.
there are plenty of other names. There were a few things that like just stood out to me as being a little off
Mm-hmm.
with the story. Like, okay, I get the slapping, scratches, and he could have been on those psychedelic mushrooms and seen a rabbit dog,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that just disappeared. Um, and I mean, I've seen videos, and you don't know if they are legit or not, but of you know sheets being pulled off and people being tossed. And okay, um, so do I think that that stuff can actually happen? It could. Do I think? I mean, and then there's the now I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I'm saying no. I think it's debunked.
Yeah.
But on the same hand, like, what did they have to gain from that?
Yeah.
It's not like they're made for TV movies coming out.
And you'd be like an outcast of the church for
Right.
sure.
So
Again,
they
for the second time.
literally, right. So they literally had more to lose than gain by creating this story.
Mm-hmm.
So why would they create the story? They're not getting,
They're not getting
book
paid for
rights. They're
it.
not getting paid, you know, um,
Like you had Andrew Jackson show up at your farm, but that's
right.
it.
Right.
And you had tons of people showing up to try to talk to this thing or ask it questions.
But they're not,
That's
but
it. They're not like
they're not
paying
getting money
anything.
for
Yeah.
it.
That's where I'm stuck too, is like, I think it could have been real, but they've made it so big that now it doesn't seem real. Like I think there could have been
That's valid.
instances of
Mhm.
things happening, but because they like it just got either through the community or through them just kept getting bigger
Bigger. Yeah.
and bigger, and then is now just so far fetched that it's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Right. And like with the telling of every story, there's things added and there's things, embellished upon. So I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
That, yeah, maybe a few weird things did happen, but it got almost like it grew too quickly for them to contain.
Yeah.
And then it got just out of hand. So now it's like, oh, all right. Like that's
Yeah.
like the ghost is putting poison in your cupboard. Like that
Claiming to murder you too.
right.
Yeah.
And like quoting Bible verses to the townsfolk.
But it would like mock people who didn't go to church. I don't know if I ended up saying that part of what I had written, but
yeah.
it would mock people who didn't go to church. But how is it knowing who's
How do
going
you
to church?
right, right.
I don't know.
So right. So things like that, it's like, was it relegated to their house? Did it roam around the town? Did it
I mean,
attack
people would
anybody
come
else?
to. It
seemed
sounds like people would come to the farm to talk to it.
right.
So
Right. It seems like everybody went to the farm,
mm-hmm.
but then this ghost knows if you're going to church or not.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know.
So yeah, so I definitely think that things like that were probably embellished and kind of morphed into something
Mhm.
more than it actually was. I don't know if I really buy, like, who's saying that the townspeople went to ask questions? The Bell family?
I think it was
Or
just in reports. Like
in,
there was like you're trying to find credible sources, and it's like, well, the townspeople were going here.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, yeah, and who said
who
that?
said it?
Right, right. Who
But
said
you
that?
can't like. But that's part of it. Is there was nothing written about it, no records of it until they started writing books in 1894, which was almost 100 years later. 80 years later.
Yeah, right.
Can I do math?
So, so you have books that are
Somewhere.
written decades later on an account where most of those people probably weren't even still alive, because let's face it, 1800s, you're not living to
Mhm.
100. Um, you know, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I find hard to believe. Do I think maybe this something little some happened? Yeah, possibly,
Mhm.
but not nowhere to the extent of these.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I feel like easily it could have been haunted. I believe in hauntings. I'm all for a
Mhm.
ghost. But I do think it got blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I would agree.
Big time
I would agree with
blown
that.
out of proportion. Especially since it's like still a thing that is talked about now too. Like there's
Right.
still books about it, or like people still go to the Bell Witch Cave all the time in Tennessee.
That would actually be kind of cool.
I know. We
That
should
would be
go.
road trip. See, we have too many road trips. We
I
got to
know.
plan. Give us your suggestions. Where should we go?
I know. Definitely what is the East State Penitentiary?
Oh, that, yes.
I want to go there so bad, but I'm so scared.
Yes, and then Penhurst is another one.
Yeah. Oh, did we give our? We think it's fake.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say it is totally fake on this one. Not like the Arnie Johnson one. That I think we're in agreement. And again, anybody who wants to debate,
Mm-hmm.
we welcome it. But I think that there might be elements of truth in it, but it's been blown way
Yeah.
out of proportion. I think a lot of the things, like the talking to townspeople and quoting Bible verses and the putting the poison in the, I think that's all kind of
Mm-hmm.
BS. But was somebody's hair getting pulled or slapped or a sheep pulled up? Sure.
Yeah.
I could believe that.
Yeah. If you like what you heard and you're a fan of the creepy and unusual as much as we are, feel free to follow, leave us questions, comments, or suggestions, and we hope to see you next week.
Bye.